Okay, guys, this is the final video I'm boshing out for you to explain how the enterprise model works. Now, constantly get asked by people, how do I approach filling in this thing? Now, I have actually written a blog to teach you about the process around it, which I recommend reading. It's called How Do You Fill in Financial Template Model? Surprise. But I thought, why don't I just take you through this and just off the top of my head, think about how I would approach doing this. Now, there's a lot involved in this, okay? And the most important thing is to not think about it as doing it perfectly. Think of it as an evolution. It's something where you get towards the end. So the first thing you want to do is write down what the outcome is that you want. So let's pretend you're a Series A company for normal SaaS. The typical benchmark, or used to be $1 million, say it's $1.5 million ARR. You have to do that for your Series A or you're not getting funded. So you need to do it. So write down $1.5 million ARR. Now, with your typical pricing, how many customers does that mean? What marketing activities will you be doing to get them? What do you expect your CAC to be? Your CPCs, your conversion rates, your funnel metrics from traffic to trial to conversion. Write them down of what you think they are now, where you will want them to be over time. And if you do that, you'll already have an idea of what you're targeting for. Now, in M&A, mergers and acquisitions, when you're selling a company, your boss will basically say, this company is worth $250 million. And then if you're an analyst, a minion investment bank, you'll go build one of these financial models and somehow figure out how to make that thing worth $250 million. But it's a lot easier once you know what you're aiming for. But just make this more granular. Like, what does this business need to look like for not only for you to be fundable, but for you to actually build a real profitable, meaningful business? So write all these things down, break them up to the extent that you have, and know what you're aiming for. Because with a model like this, especially if you're early stage, you don't know. If you're later stage, you have a better idea, but you're still not really sure, right? But by working through all the various assumptions in here, you'll be able to get better idea about what will work and what won't. I'm going to do this on the basis that you're a smart, well-prepared person, maybe with a team who've got numbers together, and do it under that basis. If I was to describe this for someone who was less prepared, frankly, it wouldn't be that different, but let's pretend that you are. So the first thing I would do is I go in the P&L actual, and I would just fill in everything, okay? Just fill in all the boxes for the months that you have, okay? It could be 9 months for here. It could be more. I do this on the basis of your, the first year that you're doing it. But fill all these things in, everything that you can. You have to fill in a lot of this stuff for it to kind of make sense when you're looking at the combined sheet. But just fill it in because it's an easy win. Like, you should know what these numbers are. How many clients do you have? How much are you making, across the boxes of your clients as you define them? Maybe you want to actually sit down during that process when you're actually defining your goals and say, how do I characterize my avatars of my customers of basic, premium, pro guys? If you have a different term, use whatever, I don't care. But just fill it in. Like, this is an easy win, okay? I'm not going to go any more about that. Just for why not, okay? There's only a couple assumptions. If you're doing discounts and vouchers, cancellations, bad debt, credit card, fraud, you kind of know what they are. They could be zero, whatever. Put a number in. If you don't care, just leave them as it is. If you're doing fundraisings for your horizon, whack in your numbers so you can see when you're losing money and stuff. That shouldn't really take you more than 10 seconds if you're prepared. P&L combined, there's nothing to do. DNA and tax, just so that you can forget about it, because really, who cares, okay? The only thing that really matters is because of your net operating losses. But if you don't really know what this shit is, leave it as it is. If you're in Ireland or something, then I think it's done on a basis of 8 years. Maybe change it to that. But no one's really going to know the difference. It's not that much of a big difference anyway. And then just forget about this sheet. You're done. Forget about it, okay? Now, KPIs, P&Ls for decks, source and use charts and stuff. Yeah, just do this. When do you plan on closing a fundraise? And how many months are you raising for? It's typically 18, right? And there's a reason for that. Put in how much you think you might want to raise, and then forget about the sheet again. This is something you want to look at basically when you're nearing done. But you can forget about the sheet again. Charts and stuff, you don't care. Now, what I would do then Now, I'm going to presume you're doing both this SME SaaS stuff and enterprise. Okay. If we're just doing the enterprise stuff, I would get straight into the enterprise part, but I'm going to pretend that you're doing both. Okay. So I would bosh into the marketing sheet. I would ungroup this and I would just type in what you think your conversion rates are. And then I would write an email to your CMO, whoever, and say, I want my CPC rates, I want my conversion rates, I want my marketing activities, my conversions, blah, 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 for all the activities that we're doing, basically your KPI report, which you should hopefully have. And put in your approximate numbers. So 3.5, 4, or 5 doesn't make that much of a difference, not that much. And later on, you want to refine them, but just whack in your approximate numbers or leave them maybe as they are, if that's okay. Then I would say, okay, what are my main marketing channels? Am I mainly doing paid? Am I doing blogging, social, or something? Am I mainly doing channel sales? And then I would pick that sheet and fill it in. But let's just run through. So my paid and organic, I would just quickly type in, what are all my main marketing channels that I have? Then I'd say, okay, how much money am I spending per channel? How much are you spending per month? Whack in approximate numbers, something like this. And then, hopefully if you've got the data at hand, chuck in your CPCs. If you don't really know, put in some sort of number and think, does that kind of make sense or not? Email, I would literally just input how many email databases or how many people to have my email database already, and then just ignore this shit. Forget about it. Blogging, social, how many social media followers do I have? I mean, like if you got 1 million, then this stuff becomes important. If you don't, I'd actually just put zeros and forget about the social stuff, and then only deal with it again if you want to optimize for something. And then if you're doing channel sales, or you plan on doing it, just working partners, approximate number of leads, what you kind of think the CPL, CPA kind of stuff is, how many leads per month your channel sales guys can do. Maybe set this to 0 and leave so it's staying steady state, and then forget about it. And then boom, you've already just done your marketing. Then look at this, and I would pull up the numbers and for what kind of makes sense. Do these seem ballparkish? It won't really, because you haven't filled in enough numbers. So I'd skip over the enterprise stuff and I deal with the SME pricing, okay? Because marketing times my pricing equals revenue. So you want to do the marketing first. So deal with what package you are. You should know this, this should be obvious, okay? How do you do it? Monthly fee is probably for most people. So you would leave it as it looks like this. How much do you charge? Like almost everyone has 3 pricing packages. Put in 1, 2, 3. How much? Do you offer discounts or not? You should know this. Yes, no, or not. Put in zeros if not. API kind of stuff. If you really don't know, just put in 0, deal with it later, come back to it. It's not hugely important to be honest. It's just sort of server costs. And also your business may or may not be really dependent on the cost of your service. So that might be something you actually need to build from scratch, to be honest. I built something which makes sense, but it can be really important for some people. So there you go, like 10 seconds, boom, boom, boom. There you go, this is core pricing. Then I would go into the SME conversion sheet. You ungroup everything and then just be like, okay, do I do sales or not? Right? If it is, everyone's automatically onboarded, I put in 0 here, drag it across. If you are doing, 100% sales, you type in 100% here. What is your approximate number? Ideally, you should dig into your actual metrics and figure out these numbers, but you can always start with something that kind of makes sense. And then do people buy annually or monthly? Again, you kind of have a little bit of think about what your typical avatars are for the 3 boxes. Allocate them between. For the auto onboard, and then do the same thing for the sales supported. How long is the trials? If you only have like a 30-day trial, then type in 100%, delete this. What is your conversion rate from trial to paid? You should know this, put them in, done, right? Churn rate, what is your typical churn rate on the monthly guys? Do you think this is going to be higher or lower? If not, put 0. Package switching, do you know or not know? Do you have any historical data? If not, put zeros. What is your contract length? 12 months, I'd assume. Then again, allocate these people between 3 packages, which may or may not be hard for you. Again, adoption, if it's 1 month, 100%. What is it? What is your conversions again? You should know that. What is the conversion? What's the churn rate going to be happening? Maybe leave these as 0, put these as 0s if you want. Boom, we're done. Ignore these because they're all going to be there. At that point, you should see that you're starting to generate revenue. So I might start looking just quickly here and seeing, what do my kind of numbers generally look like? If they're all blanked out, then you know you haven't got enough data there. But is it kind of making sense or not? Then quickly, professional services. If you do it or not, this is easy. Just delete everything if you're not doing it. If you are, bucket people up, put in how much you charge, how long it kind of takes for it, and how many hours people work a day. Put in ballparks again, who cares? Then just because you want to finish off your revenue, pick out the structure. Are you going to be launching modules or not? I'm not sure. Put in your approximate pricing, maybe when you might launch things. It doesn't have to be perfect at the start, but kind of just want to see the order of magnitude and direction of where your revenue is going. Who you think will be, taking up for it. By the way, pick obviously module or seat-based expansion. Easy. And then that's basically your SME type revenue done. So you can kind of see how much money you are making. Then why don't we head into the enterprise part, because maybe you can give 2 shits about the SME start. So the first thing you need to do is you go into the revenue summary. You can set the case to either 1 or 2, depending on what you want. Just leave stage wedding off. How do you think about your bookings for your contracts? Is it 1 year or 3 years? Put in 3. Then you map this out. Implementations, timing schedules, you can leave as is if you want. Just type in the types of client you deal with and how you want to bucket things up. List the name of your products, what countries you work in. If you want to make this different, you can ignore all that stuff. There you go. That's actually done. Revenue assumptions. Now, this is going to be a pain in the ass. It's going to take you a bunch of time. So go have a cigarette, come back and sit down and just do it properly and map everything out nice, logically and methodically for each of these sales cycles. Then next part, okay, because this links to here, is how much you're charging for all the services you offer, 0 if they're not or not. Doing POCs, forget about the percentage of sales unless it's something you have a strong opinion on, and then map out your timing schedule, okay? Now, once you've done that, go into the enterprise forecast sheet, scroll on down to here. I would figure about this for now, or maybe to set everything to case 1 or 2 or something. Whack in your clients, the countries, what products and stuff you're doing. And I would just do it maybe for case 1 for your current pipeline to get an idea for the kind of money you're getting out of it. And then you can update it again. Or if you'd say, I just want to do this very methodically and properly, fill it in properly, sort of like I explained here. Maybe just exclude the stage weight thing, because that's an extra little bonus thing that you can play around with. This you can deal with later if you don't want to really deal with the expansion stuff and the second phase. But if you kind of have, idea, plan, roadmap around it, you can whack in some numbers. And the last thing you want to do for the enterprise thing, you don't want to do this now. We have to then deal with staff first before you do this, actually. Sorry. If this is the same, you can use mine, but the likelihood you have search engineers and stuff is probably kind of low. But that is the first part I would do for the enterprise part. Now, the next thing I would do, conversion rates, pricing we dealt with, right, is I would start dealing with expenses. So go into the staff sheet and map out the people that you employ now, like you, the CEO, CFO, whoever, or the developers that you have. You should have HR people or someone who tell you who the people are when they join, what the salary is, what the bonuses are. If you're going to increase the salaries or not, plop them in with whom you have. Do the same thing for the marketing people, the cogs, blah, blah, blah. And then be like, what do I approximately think we're spending per month per people? How much do I spend on laptops and desks and shit? Do people travel around? Put in some kind of number. Again, you can refine those. How much am I paying on rent per person? Why not? And then I would map out the people. So I would be, okay, so for my projects, what staff do I know I have to keep on hiring or using to execute my enterprise projects? And then if you have hired them already, use the drop-down menu to pick those people that are there so that they feed into the enterprise sheet. So then I would go to the enterprise sheet. This will then be populated with people, and I would, from your experience, put in what kind of time allocation you think they would have to put on a project, and then you have done the enterprise sheet. So you have then done most of the staff. Expenses are relatively easy to do because there's not much, right? You're typically just going to say 100%. So you map that as 0, so it's 100%, right? I've got calculations turned off so Excel runs faster. And then 2.7% for Stripe or something, and you're kind of done. And then for your server costs, like, oh, okay, maybe it's kind of relatively easy. If you're not quite sure, just look at the numbers and see, is that how much I think you're going to spend on my servers? And then deal with it properly when you need to, but this can be done pretty quickly. Then deal with your automated calculations. So what is my typical productivity of people? Let's put this as 0, forget about it. What is my targeted earnings for these guys? Set these as 0. How many people am I typically going to hire for this? Hopefully that should be relatively quickly to do. Do the same thing, set that as 0. What your typical productivity curve is, or just call it 100% if you want to, and then change it. How you allocate people, then you're done with the sales guys. Support staff, bucket up the required help, how much time you're putting onto them, how many hours people work, required help, time, hours, help, time, hours. If you're not really sure, put in something. And if the costs look too high or too low, change them. So at this point, you kind of have most of the sheets spread out. So I would start be really looking at the KPI sheets, mainly at, really start looking at kind of what your ratios are and the order of magnitude of how much money you're making, because you may go, oh my God, I'm making so much fucking money. This is ridiculous. At which point you want to bring down your revenue and see what those ratios look about again. Okay. At which point go, oh God, I'm making too much money. Well, what are the functions of that? I can have lower conversion rates, or I can have more expensive marketing so that my budget is not spent there or something. So I would go back to my marketing sheet and be like, this is for the SaaS part anyway, okay? The SME SaaS part, and be like, okay, decrease my conversion rates, or from the paid part, if that's a big part, increase your CPCs or decrease your paid budget for it. Maybe you start seeing then that the contribution from the various parts are too much. Email seems to be too big. So you go to email and be like, okay, open rates are going to be lower. Click-through rates will be less. There'll be less sharing. Blog and social, I'm not going to get featured as much as I thought I would. Channel sales are not going to convert like I would, or will be more expensive. And that'll mess up with your revenue a bit. If your revenue is still too high or something, or it's too low, then you would go, to expansion revenue. You could then change it so that less people are actually expanding, or maybe you can't charge as much as you would, or you think actually it'll take longer for you to launch your products. Maybe, whatever professional services, the margin will not be as good, or the take up on the number of people who will use it will be less. Maybe customer care people will need to be larger because, they're not as effective as you thought they would be. With the enterprise stuff, I'd be like, this is its own little world. But maybe you can't get the pricing that you thought that you were going to get, or the sales cycle will take longer. Your expansion phases too are not going to happen at all. You can change your stage weights, but here, the benefit of the enterprise one is you can change all your cases. Okay. Maybe your staff people need to be higher, and you basically just, once you've kind of plunked in your numbers, like pick something. Okay. And so maybe I didn't really think about this better. I probably need to have more managers because, do you know what? I'm not great at it. So maybe I want to have 3 account executives per manager or something. Or maybe I think I can increase productivity, or, my target productivity per salesperson will be higher or lower, and keep fiddling with these numbers. And then, looking at your P&L and being like, okay, how does this go down? Like, when am I starting to make, net income or EBITDA, or, looking at your operating cash flow and see how those all sort of work out. So it becomes an iterative process where it's like whack-a-mole. You do one thing and there's unintended consequences somewhere else. And so it's a constant balancing act with your costs and your revenue and your conversion rates, etc., which you can really see through the multiples to figure out if what you're doing is making sense. But you're looking for your guiding star, which is what I told you at the start of this. It was like, I need to do 1.5 million ARR in the first year. So what does it look like I'm doing? I'm doing ARR, excluding the enterprise stuff, of 582. My first year, that's not what I said I wanted. It happens in the second year. What do I need to do? I need to increase my pricing. I need to increase my marketing. I need to increase my conversion rates. I need to increase something for me to hit those numbers. So once you have true command over all the independent drivers, you'll be able to get the model to do what you want. But there's also this crazy thing that will happen, is that your brain will start working like a model, and you'll really understand all the independencies of your actual business in a way that you just didn't have before, which I think is pretty cool. So I literally I wouldn't prepare for this. I just thought, you know what? Just finished the last video on the marketing. What would be really useful for people? And I just made this video. So this is not perfect or anything, but making a model, doing startup is not perfect. So there you go. Hopefully that gives you sort of a bit of a guidance about how you should go out building a model, and realizing don't take it too seriously at the start. Just fill it up because you start seeing results, and then pick something, pick on it, focus more on it, try and get it right. And then keep iterating between your costs and your revenue to ultimately get to that guiding star point that you wanted. And, the real goal of this is to show that you're fundable, but also that you're logical, right? So all investors think these plans are ridiculous, right? But with the size of it, it really shows that you've thought it through. And it's not just for investors. It's for you to know how to control your business and understand it in much greater detail and more structured than you otherwise ever would have done that. Okay, guys, that's my last video. If there is something you'd love me to cover, if I messed up something, if the fact that I got an allergy drove you nuts, you want me to redo the video, sure, let me know. But I kept getting asked to make these videos for you, so I tried to just push them out as quickly as possible. So not perfect, but done. Hit me up in the comments if I can help you out. Bye, guys.